Boy, oh boy, we are back again. We're painting Nemesis's limiter today. Here's something I forgot to mention in the last video. Liquid mask. I actually applied this between the last video and this one. It's the green stuff that you see on the flesh that we did all on the coat there. Usually people mask with tape, masking tape, but because these details are so small, you use that liquid mask. What it is it is a resin. It's kind of like liquid latex if you've ever worked with that. You brush it on and then you can just peel it off later, but it perfectly masks in those parts. So you got weird shapes that tape can't get into. The liquid mask, also by Vallejo. So you can see for the limiter, I am just going in with Vallejo's Model Air Black, and I am going to spray the entire limiter with this black. Alright, so now the spraying is done. I'm going to show you the magic. So you see it's all black, and then I go in my tweezers and I just start pulling that liquid mask off. And it's going to come off perfectly where I brushed it in. Because like I said, it's just like liquid latex. You can even see it peeling off like liquid latex. This stuff is magic for small parts like this that you really don't want to mess up with masking tape. Look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and peel that off all of the parts because I use that on every single flesh part so that they would not get any overspray or any black paint on them. Now we are going to start assembly. I use Bob Smith Industries Instacure glue and also their Instaset spray. So what I like to do is just go in on the piece that's being attached. You put the glue on one side, and then on the other side you're going to see you just spritz one spray of that Instacure. And I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold them together for longer than I need to. Tell you, this stuff, once it touches, it's set. It is completely set. Now, I will say that I did forget to matte coat it, so I hope you're not like following along and pausing this video. I hope you watch it before you do this. I went for a matte clear on the coat as well. I should have done that before I removed the mask. I ended up having to go back in with a gloss varnish on the muscly parts later for the flesh, but do a matte clear. That's just my opinion. I know his trench coat in the game is glossy, but for me, a glossy finish on things like this looks cheap. It just, something about a matte finish makes something look like it's worth, I don't know, $200 more, I guess. It's a personal preference. You can gloss it, you can semi-gloss it, but I like the matte finish here. So now that you've varnished your pieces, you are actually going to start the assembly process. However, just assemble this upper body and lower body. That's what I did. And because the next step is going to be an upper body only step, but also I actually ended up assembling this statue in a different way. I know that I'm using super glue here because that's what I'm used to using for FDM parts that use PLA and plastic filaments. But when I went back, what I did was I rimmed the outside of the part with super glue and then used a 2-part epoxy on the inside just to give it that holding strength, because super glue wasn't giving me as much strength as I would have liked at those points. And this is to no fault of the modeler. Cutting and keying models to make them have really good strength at these meeting points is really tough. So I recommend, if you're doing this, to rim it with super glue so it gets an instant bond, but also use a 2-part epoxy in the middle. So now we're gonna bring back an old friend. We're going to bring back the Vallejo model color yellow. Nemesis in the remake has a lot of caution labels on his trash bag limiter, and the modeler for this is so talented that they were able to get all those little caution labels in there, and the Elegoo, Mars, and Saturn can pick up those caution labels. It's so small my camera can't even focus on it, probably because it's black on black. But you're gonna go in and have a little scavenger hunt, and you're gonna find all those caution labels, and you're going to paint them with a very fine brush. I paint them yellow. I did about 3 coats each because painting a lighter color onto black does take a few coats. So I believe I did 3 coats per label. So you can see them here. There's all the little yellow caution labels, but the caution text isn't really popping out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the Vallejo model color black, and I'm just lightly, very, very lightly, you can see I'm dabbing it off of my brush onto the paper towel, and I'm just very, very lightly going across those raised caution letters so that the label itself stays yellow and the raised letters retain that black. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the Model Masters Silver, the chrome we used in the last video for the staples on his head, and now I'm going to use that same chrome to apply it to the staples on the limiter. He has a ton of them hidden around everywhere. There's a lot on his back, a lot on his front, and I'm really sorry I couldn't do this on camera, but I had to hold it very close because these are very, very fine details that I am painting in here. And you can see them there, all the caution labels and all the staples are done. I did end up going back in, putting a little more black on the caution letters, but that wraps it up for this time around. That's the first steps of getting the limiter done. We now have our base layers down, and in the next video we'll be going into shading and detailing it. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far, and I hope maybe you're learning a little something, even if you're not making your own Nemesis. See you next time.